Welcome to Learning Out Loud, a space for honest conversation as life is happening. I'm Kate, and this podcast is about navigating the moments that shape us, the stress, the growth, the uncertainty, and the lessons we only learn by living them. Now, I'm not here as an expert with all the answers. I'm here learning in real time, sharing what I'm discovering, and holding space for anybody that's figuring it out too. So, wherever you're listening from, walking, driving, or just taking a minute to yourself, I'm really glad you're here. Let's learn out loud together. Now, in the last episode, we spoke about motivation and procrastination, about how becoming isn't waiting to feel ready, but on the small, consistent decisions you make. So, flowing on from that, I want us to ask ourselves, if actions shape who we're becoming, what role does our mindset play in shaping our reality? Now, I've really been thinking about how our internal world really influences what we see in our external world around us, the way we interpret situations, how we respond to people, and the stories that we tell ourselves of what's possible within us. And I'm starting to believe that what we call attraction in life is actually just alignment, the natural outcome of what we repeatedly think, feel, and embody. I think it even comes down just to like the littlest ways that you even speak to yourself as well, and the language that you use, and not just about yourself, but how you talk about others. I read something somewhere before that said that your brain doesn't know the difference between when you're talking to yourself or when you're talking about somebody else. So how you speak about others really does then feed into what your brain is then going to think about yourself. Anything you're feeling doubtful about or just unsure of, or if you're just feeling a little bit like smaller than usual, start your day with some affirmations. Reshape the narrative that you're already presenting in your doubtful, kind of negative state of mind. Now, with these affirmations that I've been doing this week, I've then spent my day looking for evidence for these things. And if I can't find evidence, I've created evidence for them. So, yeah, the way you talk to yourself and the narrative that you create in your brain plays a massive part in actually how you operate day to day. It's like a constant cycle. What you see reaffirms your belief, therefore, your belief then runs your mind, and then you keep searching for that evidence, and then it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. So, the stronger it gets, the harder it becomes to then reshape. We hear people all the time talk about energy and vibrations. Energy is how you show up through your posture, your tone, your expectation, and your emotional regulation. Now, if I walk into a room expecting rejection, I carry myself differently. Whereas if I walk in expecting acceptance, all of a sudden my body language is different. And that simply just comes down to behavioral psychology. And again, it goes back to the filter of the mind. If you're going in with an expectation, you're going to be looking for evidence to affirm that. So the smallest behavior and misinterpretation is enough to then affirm in your brain that you were right all along. Now, body language goes a little bit deeper than this because there are many factors where it shows up. A situation to relate to this was the other day. I was sat in an office with my director having a one-to-one. When I was talking about certain things that I wasn't feeling too great about, was feeling maybe a little bit insecure about as well, I was kind of slouched over, wasn't really taking much care in how I was presenting that information. And in return, she picked up on self-doubt, a sense of like demotivation. And then all of a sudden, when I spoke about something I was confident and stimulated by, I like shot up in my chair. I was talking confidently. I started using my hands again, and I just seemed very, very energetic. And she sort of said to me, like, did you just see how you shot up in your chair there? Like, that's the answer. Like, that's what you need. Like, it's not that there's an underlying issue. You're just focusing on the wrong areas. You're focusing on the things that aren't stimulating you and that aren't making you feel energetic and creating that buzz of energy that is absolutely within you. You just need to look for the things that make you feel like that. And it was so true. Like, your body language tells us a lot about what you're feeling, but it also then plays into what you attract and the kind of responses that you get from people. So I think it really is just about embodying the kind of things you want and the things that align with you, because the more you're in that attractive mindset and you're seeking these things that you want, you start spotting the opportunity, which then gives your brain the evidence, and it just again constantly feeds that cup. So it's the same principle either way. So you can see how easily it is to manipulate yourself into thinking that something isn't working, something isn't aligned, or life is terrible, however extreme you want to go. But I don't want you to think that just by saying something, life then gives you what you want. I think it just amplifies what you embody internally, because there's a big difference between wanting something and being aligned with it. I can say I want confidence, but if I'm practicing self-doubt and rehearsing that in my brain and the narrative that I take into each day, naturally my actions will reflect self-doubt, which will then in turn attract evidence to reaffirm that self-doubt, and then the pattern follows. What I want to make clear is mindset isn't about pretending that everything's perfect. What you actually want to do is just choose how you interpret things and what you choose to put your focus on. Two people can experience the same setback. One person will see the growth, the opportunity, and the positive in that situation, whereas the other person will view it as, see, this proves that I'm not capable. So essentially, the circumstance is the same, it's just the narrative and perspective that is different. Now, I've used this principle a lot in this whole journey of becoming, and will continue to use it because there are days where you do slip and you start falling into that negative thought pattern, and it typically isn't just like a day one and done situation. You do it for a day, that day turns into a few days, and then before you know it, you've spent weeks in this horrible mindset, and you keep getting frustrated thinking like, I used to be so positive, like what's happened to me? And it's really does just take that one day where you just flip a switch and go, right, I'm changing this. I'm going to shift my perspective. As of tomorrow, I'm going to do my daily affirmations, my daily gratitude, and I'm going to focus on the good for a week straight. And then sooner rather than later, everything aligns itself again. But this has been a really, really important one for me because I've found it recently really hard to track my progress. And I'm quite tough on myself anyway. I'm never at my best. I can always do more. I'm always striving for the next thing. I hit one accomplishment and I'm already thinking about the next three. Like, I find it really hard to weigh up my success. So it's very easy for me to slip into that mindset of, oh, I'm not doing good enough. I'm not getting this. Like, I want to be there and I want to do this. I want to do that. So for me, I've really had to focus on having this strong mindset of every failure is growth and every success is big. Like, it may not be the next one that I want, but it's playing a part to the bigger picture. So I have to really celebrate the small wins and the big wins because I am very quick to kind of forget the achievements that I've already made. And I always go back to that saying of, I may not be my dream self now, but if I think back 6 months ago, I am like beyond what I ever thought I was going to be in these 6 months. So I have to really sometimes sit back and really focus on not just the good that's happening in the present, but actually what's happened the coming weeks as well, coming months, and really just give myself that credit. And the more I give myself that credit, the more it invites the next opportunities, and I start looking for the success in the next days so that I don't slip into that kind of comparison. I really have to just set my perspective each morning of, right, what am I grateful for today? What am I going to achieve? And I even did an exercise this morning. I got into work and I asked every single person that came and sat on our desk in our team, what are you grateful for today? Because for me, that not only gave me the chance to speak about what I was grateful for, I was then giving other people the opportunity to hear what they were grateful for, which then reinforced me to think more. And that was already within the first, 20 minutes of my day, like 9 positive things to think about. And just the art of asking people those questions and seeing their responses and hearing those responses instantly boosted my mood. And then I made it my mission to then keep finding those things, whether it was noticing something nice about somebody else or noticing something about myself or just congratulating myself for getting my tasks done. I really stayed motivated the whole day, and it just made me feel incredible. And then it attracted more, and I just found that my day just went so much better, so much smoother. And it just showed me like how quickly just shifting that perspective in my mind could be. So when we talk about attraction and vibration, maybe we're actually talking about the responsibility that it holds. Where does my focus go daily? What narrative do I rehearse in my own mind? What energy do I bring into rooms? And what identity am I practicing? Because you don't attract what you want. You reinforce what you repeatedly focus on. Becoming isn't about forcing positivity. It's about consciously deciding where your attention lives. It's noticing when your mind drifts to fear and gently brings you back to possibility. It's understanding that your internal world quietly shapes your external one through behavior, perception, and repetition. And maybe the deeper question isn't what do I want to attract, but instead, what am I reinforcing every day? And does that align with the things that I want? Life isn't shaped by one big thought or one big moment. It's shaped by the small conscious decisions you make each day and the narrative that you rehearse in your mind. You don't need to force positivity or pretend that everything's okay. But you do have to take quiet responsibility to notice where your attention lives. Because over time, what you focus on becomes familiar. What becomes familiar becomes identity, and identity shapes direction. So maybe the question isn't, what do I want to attract? Instead, what am I reinforcing every single day to align with the things that I want? Thank you for listening to Learning Out Loud. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and wherever you are in your becoming, be intentional, be focused, and I'll speak to you next time.